Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week, we watched the first 5 episodes of The Muppet Show. We did it. We got here.
It's time, Matt, to play the music and also time to light the lights.
Yeah, we are watching The Muppet Show. We are here. We've made it. We are watching them in the U.S. release order, specifically when the episodes aired in New York, because they would air at different times. They'd air different episodes, both around the world, but also across the country.
Oh boy.
So, I know that Chicago and LA and New York had different episodes at different times sometimes. So we are going to be focusing on the New York release order. The ones we're looking at aired from September 20th, 1976 through October 18th, 1976. And they were apparently initially put up in this order on Disney+. So if you were going to watch it when they first put the Muppet Show on Disney+, this is the order you would have seen. About a week later, they changed it to the production order, which is sort of the way that they've been produced in the past, either digitally or on DVD, which does not start with the host that we are talking about today. So if you want to get ahead of us, if you want to watch more of The Muppet Show in the same order we will be watching it, you can look it up on Muppet Wiki and sort the episode list by New York release order. And that is the order we will be going in, mostly because the way our podcast has worked so far, we've been watching things chronologically, so we can kind of sort of experience the way people would have experienced the Muppets back when these things were being released. And so the closest we can get to that is watching it the way that people in New York would have watched it in 1976. So sorry if that throws you off in the way you're going to watch along with us, or if the way you think about the Muppet Show, but we will be sure to let you know what hosts we're going to be talking about which week on Twitter and stuff like that, so you know what to watch in preparation for our episodes. But before we get too deep into that, Sam, we've done it. We made it. How does it feel? Everything we've talked about up until this point has been leading to this.
I think it's really pleasing that it's episode 20. Right on the nose,
right?
That we
that worked out really well.
Great planning on your part.
Oh, yeah.
Except I think it was completely accidental.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think originally in our proposed schedule before I uncovered everything I uncovered, I think the Muppet Show was going to be episode 5 or 7 or something like that. And then I just kept finding more and more things for us to watch. And was like, well, that's not going to happen for a while.
That's crazy. I feel great about it. It feels like it's going to be smooth sailing for a pretty long time now. We're not going to have Julie Andrews slog anytime soon, as far as I know. Except I think they do another thing with her, right?
Yeah, we have at least one more special with her, but that happens in 1978, and because of the way they're doing so many things in 1976 and 1977, it's actually going to take us a while to get to 1978.
Cool. It also feels like maybe the Muppets are going to find their identity and be treated with a little bit more respect, so maybe all of the projects adjacent to the Muppet Show will be better than they were throughout a lot of the 70s, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does feel like they're establishing themselves a little bit more as no, look, we're legit. We have our own show. We're doing this thing, as opposed to just we are puppets that pop up on those shows you watch sometimes.
Yeah, there's a backbone now, and there's a context for the Muppets.
Yeah, I don't know if you had this at all. I found myself feeling a little bummed. Mostly, I think, because we're sort of out of the unknown, that we're this unknown period of time that was full of surprises where we hadn't seen almost everything we had watched up until this point. And now we're getting into these things that I've watched before on DVD at least once. And so there was a small part of me that was just oh, yeah, I guess this isn't the style of this, and the jokes and the puppets that are popping up aren't really surprises anymore.
I didn't think about it until you just said it. I don't think it bums me out. I like that we get to watch it with a different context this time and notice little things that pop up that they've tried before or puppets that they've had before who will pop up. And to know that, like, the Muppet Show, I think probably to a lot of people at the time, they just thought, wow, this has sprung out of nowhere. Or, like, there's some TV guide entries where it describes the Muppet Show as a spinoff of Sesame Street, which is, like, not true, but I'm sure how most people thought of it was like, oh, yeah, that's the frog from Sesame Street. He's got his own show now. But so it's fun to watch it in the context of like, the entire life of what the Muppets have been so far and all of their failures and various tries and stuff like that. But yeah, maybe you're right that it will be a little bit more flat from now on.
I think it also is the curse of this first season that we'll talk about in detail as we go through, that just they're still finding their legs this first season. And so not only does it feel familiar, but it also feels a bit rough. And so, yeah, I think we'll get into more of that in the specifics of what feels rough and what doesn't.
But Jim gets real weird in the 80s, and there's a lot of that stuff I haven't seen, and like the early 90s. So I'm excited for that.
In preparation for next week's episode, which we'll talk about a little bit at the end of this episode, I was watching some of their 80s and 90s things. And yeah, specifically like immediately post Jim Henson's death, the Muppets do some stuff that I'm both looking forward to and not necessarily looking forward to discussing.
Okay. That's interesting. Foreboding.
Yeah, in like 200 episodes from now, we'll be talking about the 90s. But for those wondering, like, why we're discussing The Muppet Show 5 episodes at a time and not 1 episode at a time, part of that is because, you know, there's a lot of Muppet Show rewatch podcasts out there already doing that. And we've never really been, like, focused on one specific Muppet thing. We're kind of just focused on the Muppets in general. And so our concept has been sort of following the Muppets' journey on things. And I think, I'm speaking for both of us here, I guess, that, like, I feel like we'd be a bit bogged down if we spent 120 episodes of this podcast talking about just the Muppet Show.
That would be awful, and we wouldn't have anything to talk about for a lot of them, I feel like.
Well, and then we'd also feel probably like we had to do that same thing when it comes to Muppet Babies and Fraggle Rock, and suddenly we have like 6,000 episodes of a podcast.
I can't do episode by episode of Muppet Babies, I don't think.
That would be very rough.
That would be pain.
We might even do like season by season of the Muppet Babies.
Yeah. Those will be some weird weeks, but all right.
Yeah. Go watch 20 episodes of Muppet Babies in 1 week. But I did want to talk a little bit about that, of just if you are interested in maybe getting more of like the nitty gritty details that we may not get into about each and every episode, about the specifics of the host and the songs and all that stuff. There are other Muppet Show rewatch podcasts out there. Personally, I've been listening to Muppeturgy a lot to help in research for this, but also it's just an enjoyable podcast that goes episode by episode, and they specifically dive a lot into the behind the scenes on the music, of who wrote the music, who originally performed it. Is this the only time it's ever been performed outside of a weird setting? So that's a lot of interesting stuff that I know. I don't know nearly as much about music history as they do, so that information will not be on this podcast. But I also want to recommend checking out the book of Muppets and Men, if you can find a copy, and the documentary of Muppets and Men as well, which are both great behind-the-scenes looks at the Muppet Show. Of Muppets and Men, the book is usually at like $140 online if you're trying to find a copy. I have one, so if you want to borrow it, come on over. But the documentary is out there on the internet if you look in the right places.
There's not an ebook of it or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think there's, it's like this big coffee table book that does have like some amazing pictures in it. It's got great behind the scenes stories, and there's a lot of really good details about how sketches were actually produced, and sort of walks you through the day of how they would do these things and how certain puppets had to be created in just a few hours. And it seems like the puppet workshop on the Muppet Show was working like 12 hours a day nonstop, always creating something for like that day. If you want a copy out there, most of them will be over $100, but you can always find eBay at the right time and maybe snag a copy. But yes, today we are here to discuss the first 5 episodes in that New York production order. I'll run through the hosts real quick just so you know what we're watching, and then Sam will get into the details on those people and who they are. We've got Rita Moreno, Jim Nabors, Sandy Duncan, Ruth Buzzi, and Joel Grey. So Sam, how about you tell us a little bit more about these episodes?
On September 20th, 1976, American viewers turned on, well, I guess just New York viewers specifically, turned on their TVs to watch the first episode of The Muppet Show starring sweetheart of stage and screen, Rita Moreno. Except it was also sort of the 5th episode of The Muppet Show, and it wasn't the first episode of The Muppet Show in a lot of places, but that doesn't matter. It's fine. It also doesn't matter who the Muppets are, or why they have a show, or where their theater is, or anything like that, or how Rita Moreno got on the show, because we just hop right in as Rita Moreno sings, dances, and yells at and beats up various Muppets throughout the episode she is in. We also get our first taste of off-screen antics as Fozzie just won't stop answering the backstage phone, out of which pours water, coins, smoke, and lots of other joke things, much to Kermit's consternation. And then here's Sam's totally subjective standout moments for the episode. The first act with Rita Moreno beating the shit out of a full-body Muppet dance partner, and the final act with Rita getting really, really pissed at Animal because he's drumming too wildly while she's trying to sing Fever. They were probably my 2 favorite parts of any of the episodes we watched this week, just to full disclosure off the top there. And also a fun fact, Rita won an Emmy for this episode, which was the final award she needed for her EGOT, or Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. So thank you, Muppet Show, for Rita Moreno's EGOT. The next week, Jim Nabors, aka Gomer Pyle, from the already old when this episode came out TV shows, Andy Griffith and Gomer Pyle USMC, is the guest on this episode. This one gives us the closest thing to a storyline that we're going to get in these 5 episodes, and possibly in the first season, I don't know. As Scooter makes his debut, he is the nephew of the man who owns the Muppet Theater, so he shows up backstage and tells Kermit that he's their new gopher, as in he'll go for anything that Kermit needs. Scooter is also pushy, full of ideas, and loves to invoke his uncle's name whenever he doesn't get what he wants, much to Kermit's consternation. Here's my totally subjective stand-up moments for this one. Baskerville the Hound from the Purina commercials pops up to sing a cute song about dogs eating hot dogs with Rolf. And the show ends with Thank God I'm a Country Boy, sung by Jim Nabors, who apparently is also like an opera singer, like just a singer in addition to being Gomer Pyle. And he's accompanied by a Muppet Jug Band, and that's kind of like a rollicking fun time. Then on October 4th, 1976, we get another episode of The Muppet Show, this time starring Sandy Duncan, who the Muppets already met on the Julie Andrews Hour a few years ago. This episode's backstage story centers around Fozzie's unseen joke writer Gags Beasley and Gags' famous banana sketch, which is a legendary act that everyone from Gonzo to Sandy Duncan knows about, but Kermit has never heard of, much to his consternation. Kermit is often consternated in these episodes. Here's my totally subjective standout moments for that. Sandy and Sweetums have kind of a boring skit where she's helping him feel better about being so big and ugly, and it goes on for a long time, but it has a great punchline where she sees another big ugly Muppet, and she tells him not to feel bad for being so big and ugly, and then he hits her in the face with a pie. And also Rolf and Gonzo sing Nobody together, the song Nobody, which Rolf sang on his very first Jimmy Dean appearance. So that's pretty cute. Then another week, another Muppet Show, this time with Ruth Buzzi of Laugh-In fame, who feels like she's pretty much not in this episode. The backstage plot here involves Scooter buying a robot version of Kermit for some reason, which ends up being even more horny than regular Kermit. He gets fresh with Miss Piggy, who then accidentally beats up real Kermit, and I guess that's kind of pretty much the end. I don't think we really see what happens to Robot Kermit as far as I remember.
He's at the very, very end of that episode, and I think he just breaks.
Yes, that's what happens. Yes, he's killed off screen also, I'd imagine.
Yeah, he's disassembled.
Yeah. Kermit blows his head off. Here's my totally subjective stand-up moments for that. I didn't really have too many, but Rolf sings a song about cutting up onions. That's pretty cute. But an important thing to note is that a lot of these Rolf songs didn't appear on US TV, just in international markets with less commercial breaks. So if I were watching this in 1976, this episode would just stink wall to wall. It wouldn't have that fun little Rolf moment.
Yeah, that's the one difference as far as like we talked about watching this as if we were in New York in 1976. These UK spots exist in pretty much every episode, I think. And it's because, like you said, in the UK there were shorter commercial breaks. And so there's 2 minutes in every episode that never existed in the US versions of these. And traditionally, they are weird little songs that don't have a lot of like effect on the rest of the plot of the episode. They're little like novelty acts, and thankfully, I think from our point of view, they often involve Rolf.
Finally, unless I missed one, on October 18th, 1976, the Muppets are joined by Joel Grey, who to me was probably the least well-known person in this batch of episodes.
I had the exact same note in my notes that he is the only person whose name I did not know before watching these episodes.
Yeah, and I had to look him up. So a few years prior to this episode, he had won an Academy Award for his role of the Master of Ceremonies in the film version of the musical Cabaret, and then he won a Tony for the Broadway version, playing that same role a couple of years before that. So he's the cabaret guy, to be reductive. He's also the father of Ferris Bueller's sister, so that's cool.
Jennifer Grey is her name, who is also Baby in Dirty Dancing.
Sure. Well, I've never seen that movie, so to me...
Never seen Dirty Dancing?
I haven't. Oh.
You should. It's not that bad.
Probably should, huh?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. I just have never seen it.
To be fair, I've only seen it like maybe once in high school, so I'm kind of speaking out of my ass here. But
it's probably fun.
Everyone talks about it like it's good.
Is her name actually Baby?
I think so.
He doesn't just call her Baby.
Again, high school is the last time I think I watched that movie in full. So I'm gonna say yes. Her name is Baby. I think her like nickname is Baby. I don't know if she already has that before she meets him. Or I feel like it must be something her parents know about because nobody puts Baby in the corner. It would be really weird to say to her parents. Huh? Yeah, she'd be like, wait, who's Baby?
So anyway, the backstage storyline in the Joel Grey episode involves Fozzie declaring that he is a joke for any subject. So he hangs around backstage making jokes at any little thing anyone says until it's time for his comedy act on stage, during which Statler and Waldorf throw out a word to him that he doesn't know and stumps him and embarrasses him as per usual. And Kermit was consternated by all of this at some point in the episode, or multiple points. So here's my totally subjective standout moments from this one. We get our first inkling of what Gonzo's deal is, kind of, in this episode, as the show closes out with him attempting some performance art, destroying and eating a car. So he's doing that, and everyone's booing and hates him. So Joel Grey comes out to teach Gonzo an important lesson. If your act is really flashy, no one will care that you stink on ice. And I like to think that maybe this is canonically the moment that Gonzo goes from being a mopey little freak to like a true weirdo. It just seems like it fits to me.
It does, but I think because, again, the production order and release order and all this stuff is so weird, I think we will still have plenty of mopey, weird, artsy Gonzo after this.
Well, he's still chewing over the advice. He's working on it. Yeah, so that was all. But so here's a couple things really quickly that were happening during this particular period of 1976. Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford are running for president, with the election happening a few weeks after the Joel Grey episode. Spoiler alert, Jimmy Carter will win. The band U2 forms in Dublin over this period of time.
Wow, I did not realize U2 was so old.
So it doesn't seem like any really good movies came out in these particular weeks, but Rocky and Marathon Man are both about to come out, and The Omen came out a few months previous to this. And in the musical world, ABBA's Dancing Queen, Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, and Elton John and Kiki D's Don't Go Breaking My Heart are burning up the charts. So that was what 1976 felt like, maybe.
Yeah, we are going to get much more granular with our timelines here because we're talking about sort of like a month at a time. And so right now we're focused on this September to mid-October 1976 time, which is why that like sometimes the Muppets won't be doing as much as we've been talking about in other episodes where we talk about like an entire year in one episode because I think purposefully during this first month where the Muppet Show is coming out, they're not doing anything else. They're not like they've done their promotion for it all leading up to this, but during this first month, they're still producing future episodes of the Muppet Show, and not really worrying about showing up on other shows right now.
So we're going to know 1976, 77, 78, 79 very well. We'll be well versed in what happened those years.
I think it's also worth noting that the Joel Grey episode was the first episode to air in the United Kingdom.
Oh.
So I don't know if he was more popular over there.
That's something I was wondering about is like, did anybody pick these with any kind of logic attached, or did they just be like, well, it's time for the Muppet Show to come on. I guess let's put the tape in and we'll just see which one it is.
Yeah, and I don't know, from everything I read about and like the way they picked these for the UK and everything, it seems sort of random, but also in watching them in this order and watching it with the more critical eye, it feels purposeful because I think, again, subjectively, that the Rita Moreno and the Jim Nabors episodes are both really strong series openers. Yeah. If you're going to start off like this show and introduce the Muppet Show to people, I think that you could not do much better season 1-wise than that Rita Moreno episode.
And then the Jim Nabors one introduces a character that will pop up like in future episodes.
Right, which is one of those weird things that if you watch this in any other order, Scooter pops up in those episodes. Like if you watch this in production order, Scooter is there. He's just a part of the show already. You know who he is. And then he would show up in the Jim Nabors episode introducing himself. So I don't know if there's also that thought of like, okay, we need to reorder these to make Scooter's storyline make sense. But yeah, there will be lots of things that don't make sense as we go through this. Partially because of the production order, release order, but I think a lot of it is just they didn't worry that much about the canon of the show. I think another thing to mention about some of these hosts and some of our guest hosts in the future is that in this first season, a lot of people were basically doing this as a favor to Bernie Brillstein, who was like their agent, manager, whatever, and also Jim's agent. And so, yeah, it was Bernie calling in a lot of favors of, yeah, I know you maybe don't know who the Muppets are. You don't really know what's going on, but could you come over to England and shoot this weird thing? Please, thank you.
Was Rita Moreno one of those people?
I don't think so, actually, because Rita Moreno was on the Electric Company. So she had like a slight connection to like Children's Television Workshop and then also like a slight connection to Muppets through that. I think a lot of these things in the first season are like tenuous threads of like, ooh, does anyone know how to get in contact with that person? Because we kind of have an in. So somebody call them, please. And so I think it's probably a lot of Bernie Brillstein doing a lot of work on the phones to see who's willing to come over to England.
That's like a surprising get if it wasn't just a Bernie Brillstein thing. That's a good one.
The fact that this episode is one of the most popular episodes of all time is kind of fascinating because some parts of it are very meh. And like I think the standout spots jump out a lot, but the fact that like this one got her the Emmy win, and this one is also the one when they started to promote the Muppet Show being on Disney Plus, there was like interviews with Rita Moreno on the news and stuff, and like she was the go-to guest that they were talking about as representing the Muppet Show.
Does she show up in another episode or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay,
that's actually one thing I wish that the Muppet Show maybe would have stolen from early SNL would be to like sort of have these return guests, like look at the ones who work extremely well and bring them back in the next season.
Especially some of these early people who I feel like really get the short end of the stick, because I don't know how true this is, but my memory is that the hosts, so the hosts are more woven into episodes in the future, where in this one they just are like almost a non-entity. They're just like, they just pop up in the stage portions of the show, and they don't really talk to any of the other Muppets except Joel Grey, who kind of gets a chance to talk to Gonzo. But then eventually they'll do the cold open with Scooter talking to the celebrities, which gives it a lot more of a through line. But yeah, I felt bad for Sandy Duncan kind of, because she doesn't get to talk to any Muppets. Or like Ruth Buzzi, I know is funny, but she barely gets to do anything in this episode. And then a big chunk of her appearance on this episode, she's playing another character, which I'm sure we'll get into later. Like, those panel discussion things are very weird to me. It would have been nice for some of these people to get to come back when they knew what they were doing a little bit better.
Well, and it does. I think SNL is such a good comparison, because on SNL, even today, like you'll see that it'll be hosted by Peyton Manning, and then Peyton Manning shows up in like 2 sketches, and you're like, huh,
yeah,
maybe Peyton Manning's not great at comedy, and so they just don't use him that much. And like, I'm not saying anything specifically about Peyton Manning. That was just the first example I threw out there.
He's gonna come kick your ass.
I now that I'm thinking about it, his episode was actually really good, and he was really funny. But there are specifically like athletes, I think, who when they bring them on to SNL, aren't always top tier performers. But you'll notice that like they're used less in the show than other people who have the better comedy chops. And I think a bit of that is happening here of like who works well with the Muppets and who doesn't. Let's use them more. And I also have read varying stories both of Muppets and Men and in interviews with Rita Moreno. It sounds like the guests' involvement was pretty much up to how much they wanted to be involved. So they could show up, they could record for a couple days and bounce and kind of just like do what was asked of them. But then it also seems like they could come in with ideas and pitch things and sort of shape the show as well. So I think I think that's also similar to the way SNL kind of works, is that there's a staff of writers there. They'll write something for you. You can perform. And if that's what you want to do and just leave, that's fine. But if you want to be more heavily involved, you can be. And I believe Rita Moreno has talked about having some ideas for the Fever sketch and some of the other things that she was at least involved in the conversation of what to do for those.
The only standout, like you said, the only standout parts of that episode really are her parts. So I assume she won that Emmy based entirely on her parts of the episode.
Yeah, it is fascinating that she only is in like 3 small segments of that episode and she won an Emmy for it. Like that's...
Yeah. She's really good though.
Oh yeah, for sure. One last thing to note before we dive into these episodes one by one is that during this time period, on September 24th, 1976, Jim Henson turns 40.
Yeah. His birthday is my birthday, September 24th.
Yeah. You're the reincarnation.
I could be.
A few years off, though. You were born before he died.
Well, okay. Shut up.
All right, so episode 1, Sam, was Rita Moreno, as we've discussed. I think it's a great series premiere. I mentioned that before, but like just watching this back again, I think compared to some of these later episodes, they start off pretty strong.
Oh yeah, I think the sketch with her dancing with and beating that guy up, the very first actual sketch you see, is like as perfect a first sketch you could see.
Yeah, the editing is really well done. They hide the switch between the puppets and the body thing.
There's some crazy ones where she'll like, sometimes the person she's dancing with will be a big floppy doll and she'll throw him off screen and then the camera will cut to him pretty quickly and it will have been replaced by a guy in a suit. It's cool.
They don't even cut. They just like throw the dummy off screen and then the camera follows her and then he walks back in and it's very, I don't know, it's very well done. It's very believable. And I think it also makes it immediately clear that this is very different from anything we've seen before. But before we got into that, we forgot to mention the show opening, the theme song.
Yes.
The theme song is pretty much the same, but the visuals of the opening theme song, very different than you're used to. A little more janky. Jankier and also less ambitious. The scale is much, much smaller. We cut to the crowd, and you've got about 6 Muppets, some of them active,
the crowd shots.
Some of them dead. It's like a little black box theater they're in, as opposed to like their giant theater that we normally see them in. The
crowd shots were not good.
Yeah, I feel like they should have just skipped them entirely because you have this laugh track that sounds like 50, 60 people laughing, and then you cut to the audience and there's 10 people, half of them aren't even moving. Like I said, the music is pretty much the same, but we don't get the big, like, stage, all the characters on screen walking through these archways thing. You pretty much just get a few characters dancing in from the sides. You get some Frackles and some Muppets dressed like maids. And then you get them sort of...
I guess they're, like, supposed to be can-can girls, but maybe they missed the mark a little bit.
But they have, at the end, it's just them sort of sitting on this, like, tiered cake-looking thing that is, again... It's very nice. It's very like impressive, but compared to what we will see later, clearly not quite the same scale.
But same theme song, which I feel like the theme song does so much to like propel these episodes. Like some of these episodes, the theme song's doing all the work to get you excited, basically. You got to coast on that theme song energy through the whole thing.
Which specifically, in one of them we'll get to, they change it up a little bit with the theme song, and that derails things because it's, 1, not what I'm used to, and 2, just feels like they stopped the theme song to talk about something for a second and then get back into it.
It shows a teaser for the episode, but the teaser it shows also is the very first skit that you're going to see in about 45 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you've never seen The Muppet Show before, the show is kind of split into two like distinct halves. So there's every episode has like a backstage storyline where you'll see Kermit back there telling people who's going to go on stage next, and you'll see the people who are on stage before reacting to how their performance went, and then there'll be like a reoccurring gag or a little storyline that'll play out in like 30-second interstitials of these backstage acts. Then there is what assumedly is the on-stage thing that the Muppets are doing, which are the skits like Swedish Chef or Veterinarian's Hospital. And then there are like the one-off skits that are more based around the celebrities. So first, do you want to talk about the backstage storyline?
Sure. This one you mentioned earlier is the phone gag where different things keep calling, whether it's the fire department or the water department or whatever, and the things that they are calling from come out of the phone.
Yep. So when the water department, which I guess is a thing, the water department?
I mean, you have to pay your water bill to somebody.
I suppose so, to the water department. So the phone rings, Fozzie picks it up, water comes out, Kermit says, "Who's that?" And then Fozzie says, "The water department." And then they go, "Wah." And that's pretty much it. They do that like 4 different times. I don't even remember why. Oh, coins pour out, and he says, "Las Vegas."
I think that's the weakest one. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense.
No.
Because it's the water department, the fire department, and Las Vegas.
Yeah, but there's also the Atomic Energy Commission where it just blows up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That should have been the last one.
It should have been, but instead the last one is the phone rings, Kermit doesn't want them to answer it, and Animal comes in and tears the phone off the wall.
Oh, that one was good too.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have just not done the Las Vegas one.
It disrupts the format a little bit.
So this is not really much of a storyline, but it is the first time we see Kermit and Fozzie interact with each other.
Yeah, this is the U.S. debut of Fozzie. I also wanted to mention that this episode being the first one to debut in the U.S., if people had already seen the Valentine show and Sex and Violence and stuff, a lot of these characters would be familiar to them. But this would have been the U.S. debut of Fozzie, the newsman, Marvin Suggs, who we will for sure be talking about, and Wayne and Wanda. But everybody else, if you would have seen the pilots, which again, not everyone would have at least made their debut already. But we get that dynamic, I think, pretty clearly, pretty early on, even though the backstage looks weird for some reason. Like it looks really dark and off for this episode.
It's kind of just in this episode, too.
Yeah, which is, again, if they had shot this one first, would make sense. But this one was shot fifth, so I don't understand why it looks so off.
I suppose it's also possible that they shot some of these backstage storylines and didn't know which episodes they were going to put them in.
Well, I'm also now remembering, as you say that they specifically did shoot some of the scooter stuff for the Jim Nabors episode as pickups later on.
Right.
So there was times that they would go back and reshoot things to make a story make a little bit more sense, or if they needed little insert jokes and stuff. So this could have been one of those where they needed some extra little gags.
Maybe like you get all the Rita Moreno footage, you edit it together, you say, okay, we have 10 minutes of Rita Moreno. Now we need to fill it in with 12 more minutes of stuff. So our backstage act will be blank. Is how I imagined maybe they would do it in the early days, where later it'll be more weaved together. But yeah, it's like interchangeable, which to me is kind of a weakness. Is like the whole episode, besides the Rita Moreno things, just feel like different modular pieces plugged in.
It's a little closer to the Sex and Violence type of show, where it is just
a variety show, like a 70s variety show in general. Yeah.
And I think we've talked about anytime we've watched a variety show is that when they feel the weakest is when they don't have that thread running through them.
But yeah, the Kermit Fozzie thing's great. Fozzie's voice is fucked, but that's okay. He'll figure it out.
I mean, it'll be even worse in a future episode. The actual first one they filmed, he sounds terrible.
He sounds like the great, what's the guy's name in Gorch? The Great Gazoo? Not the Great Gazoo. The big stone head man.
The Mighty Favog.
Yeah, he's still doing his Mighty Favog voice a little bit here.
Yeah. But then we get into some of the actual like sketches that are being performed presumably on stage for this audience of 8 people.
Yeah.
And Statler and Waldorf, who have the balcony box in this little black box theater. And that first one is Veterinarian's Hospital, where we get Rolf starring as Dr. Bob. The patient is Fozzie, and the crux of this bit, pretty much in all of the Veterinarian's Hospitals, is how many puns can we cram into one sketch?
Yes, about medical malpractice.
Yeah, Dr. Bob, not a good doctor.
I've always kind of liked Veterinarian's Hospital, I guess. Maybe because mostly it's 3 characters who you never would see together otherwise.
Yeah, and I think Rolf carries these a lot. I think he just is... I don't know. I think Ralph is easing his way into that first favorite Muppet spot for me. I think because, especially at this point, we don't have like the great Gonzo content that we will get later on. Every time I see Ralph in a sketch, I'm just like, yeah, he's so great.
Mm-hmm. It's also amazing that his personality was just there from the very first second he appeared on the Jimmy Dean, or like even on those commercials he was in. Like he was just there. When even Kermit is who he's going to be forever at this point. But this is the first episode where Kermit is acting fully like himself.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Fozzie still is a little bit sketchy. He's just like a goofy guy and doesn't really have his sadness yet, which will be a more compelling part of his character, or his desperation. And yeah, Gonzo's not even in this episode, I don't think.
And Miss Piggy is still switching between Richard Hunt and Frank Oz as far as who's performing her.
I didn't expect that to happen in episodes, for her to have different voices.
Yeah, it seems like at this point Miss Piggy is just kind of being handed off of like, okay, who's not in this sketch who can perform Miss Piggy? And so like in this one, Frank Oz is performing Fozzie as the patient, and so they need Richard Hunt to perform Miss Piggy.
I guess that's true. They didn't think that one through. So then the next thing after Veterinarian's Hospital, which was fine, perfectly reasonable sketch.
It was all right.
Muppet Newsflash.
As far as what we saw in these first 5 episodes, Muppet Newsflash kind of fallen flat for me.
I agree. Maybe we'll get better later. I'm not sure. But I also don't get if it's supposed to be like on stage, or is it interrupting the Muppet Show that you're watching?
Right. Is it like a weekend update, or is this on your TV, not part of the Muppet Show? That's a good question.
But anyway, the next one, The Swedish Chef.
Well, and we also get an interesting thing there where Statler and Waldorf kind of are the ones to introduce the Swedish Chef.
Yeah, I made a note of that too.
Which is just odd that like the 2 audience members are the ones who are like letting everyone know, up next, Swedish Chef.
And they don't even make a joke, really. They're just like, I wonder what the Swedish Chef's cooking up next. Here he is.
Yeah, they seem kind of excited about it.
They love this guy. But I think he sucks in this one.
I think there's a lot of these early Swedish Chef ones that are just the same joke every time, where
he's always shooting stuff with a gun.
Yeah, he's just shooting food out of the sky.
He does that like 3 different times in these episodes.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where Swedish Chef shines when he does get to interact with other characters, whether it's another character in his sketch or it's backstage or something. But for now, when it's just him having his cooking show, it's kind of a one-note joke of, hey, there's a funny accent, and also he shoots things.
Once that food starts talking back to him and trying to run away and stuff, that's when it gets better. But it was, well, okay, we'll talk about this one later because it didn't happen in this one. This one, he's just shooting flapjacks for no reason.
Yep.
And there is actually not really a joke. So moving on.
Speaking of not really a joke, we get the At the Dance segment, which is built to be a gag machine. The people dancing in the ballroom. We've talked about this before because it was on the Sex and Violence special. But yeah, it's just puppets dancing around and stopping in front of the camera to tell some jokes, and to varying degrees of success, I would say.
Generally no success is my opinion on that.
No, I think the At the Dance segment's kind of, we'll get to more of them, but they just kind of wash over me in a way where I'm just kind of like, can we move on to the next thing? Especially in this case, because the next thing is one of my favorite things.
The country trio song?
I love it so much, Sam.
It was pretty good.
They sing Tomorrow, which is a pun-filled play-on-words song about trying to go to Morrow, Ohio. And without getting into all of it, it's just that you can't go tomorrow today is essentially the wordplay, and it goes on from there. But yeah, this is, again, the UK spot, so the US audience would not have seen this. And we get the old country trio back together, the Jerry, Jim, and Frank puppets. And yeah, I just love it. I love all of it.
These songs in general, as these episodes go on, are my favorite parts. I'm not really sure why. I think I like that. I think I like the acts that feel like they could actually be part of the show more than I like the ones like At the Dance, where it's like, what are you looking at if you're in the audience of the Muppet Show here exactly?
Yeah.
Like, I guess I get it, but also why are you doing this? But for them to come out and put on a little show like the Country Trio, that's more something that you can like latch onto and have a good time with.
But it leads directly into, I'm going to say it, Sam, my least favorite sketch of anything I think we watched.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You don't like the Muppaphones?
I hate Marvin Suggs a lot.
Well, he is basically a New Zealand also.
Yeah, I think he's too close to New Zealand, and I think it's too unhinged, and I don't like him.
Oh, I love this one.
Really?
Have you ever seen? Did you watch that? What was the Sack Lunch Bunch? Is that what it was called? The Netflix special.
Oh, yeah.
with-
John Mulaney, yes.
He reminds me so much of Mr. Music from that.
Yes.
That I can't be mad at either of them, and I think it's funny. And I like Marvin Suggs. I think his whole thing of like smacking him on the head, it's very Muppety. This feels like the most Muppety thing we've seen to me. Like this would be on The Tonight Show a decade ago.
Oh, I
and everybody would
agree.
love it.
I agree that this is like wild enough and weird enough that it could totally work on something like that. I think just like as a personality, Marvin Suggs rubs me the wrong way, the same way that like New Zealand does, where
Sure.
it's just like if he walks into the room, I'm gonna leave to go get a drink to be like, oh, he's here. Okay, bye. Because I don't enjoy him like as a character.
I think this goes on a little too long because you kind of get it. Like he does the sound check and then he does the whole sound check all over again, and it's kind of like, all right, buddy.
They also, when they start actually playing the song, it's sort of unrecognizable as a song.
Yeah, it's apparently Lady of Spain, but I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like the tempo of it is off, and the notes all sound weird because it's just like Jim Henson and Jerry Nelson just yelling, and so you don't really get to hear. I don't know. I think if it had turned into more of a song by the end of it, I think I would have been more on board.
Does he come back? Is this
Oh,
like
yeah.
a reoccurring thing?
He's back
Okay.
at least a few times, and I think he's even in like the 2011 movie.
He's definitely in the Muppet movie.
Yeah, I think he's sort of a recurring character, but not if I have anything to say about it.
Well, what are you going to do? Go back in time and kill him?
Well, that's my first step if I get a time machine.
Then you might be wondering, where's Rita Moreno been? It's been like 7 skits without her. And we ain't heard a peep from her since she danced with the guy that she beat the shit out of. So then you'll get to see her, but not as herself, in one of these, assumedly maybe just first season, panel discussions where Kermit is the moderator of a panel who's having a discussion. In this situation, it is conversation a dying art, where Rita Moreno is playing a character named Tiffany Gonzalez, and Miss Piggy's being a little bit racist and not being able to understand what Tiffany Gonzalez says, and then they get in a fist fight.
Yep, that was my takeaway as well. Is just that like there's definitely some a little bit of racism baked into this, of like making fun of the accent that Rita is putting on for this sketch, and yeah, it's again.
But also she sticks up for herself.
Yes, and they nearly come to blows, which ends with
Yeah.
the good line of Kermit saying, "Join us next week when we'll talk about repairing American and Latin America relations."
And there's also another kind of racist character in that, what's that little freak's name? Brewster. Brewster's back doing his like fake Indian accent, which I also hate.
Yeah, I don't love Brewster either. I think he just is like one of those characters who can't go away soon enough.
And he does go away soon, right?
I don't remember how long he
pretty
sticks
sure.
around, but he's
Yeah.
at least around for a little while in this first season.
Well, I hate that guy. But yeah, this is like the first time Miss Piggy kind of acts like Miss Piggy too. 'Cause
Absolutely.
she's Frank Oz in this one, right?
Yes, and I think this is.
Yeah.
I think you're right. This is sort of that violent Miss Piggy who. Yeah, I think this is much more like Piggy than the veterinarian's hospital bit, and even more so than other Miss Piggies in this season that we'll see that just kind of don't really have a character or are playing into that Piggy Lee character that she
Yeah,
would do on the Herb
right.
Alpert special.
Generally, the panel discussions seem like a waste of the guest star to me, since they're not playing themselves, which seems so weird because she could have just been Rita Moreno doing the exact same thing. But anyway.
Yeah, I think sometimes these are an excuse to like let the host play a little bit, but it's also sometimes does feel like you could have just put a Muppet in there instead of Rita Moreno.
Or just had another fun dance number or something.
Yeah, but we do get some very good Rita Moreno content in the talk spot in this episode, where we get Kermit and Rita chatting for a little bit, talking about how she wants this to be like loose and ad-libbed and fun, and Kermit agrees, but it turns out Kermit has been reading cue cards this whole time.
Yeah.
And she wants to get rid of the cue cards, but that's when he says, yeah, that's fine, but you're going to upset the guy who's holding the cue cards, which turns out to be Sweetums.
I like these talk spots, which apparently also go away, which is surprising to me because it seems like that would be like the centerpiece of a lot of episodes, but I think they work better than a lot of the other reoccurring celebrity stuff they do. Then, something that I don't think ever works at all, Wayne and Wanda.
Yeah, that will also, it'll go away sooner than the Talk Spot will. The Talk Spot makes it a couple seasons, I believe, but Wayne and Wanda only makes it through the first season. Part of that is probably because they are bad, but also because Aaron Oscar, who plays Wanda, and is also playing Janice at this point, which is why Janice is a little odd and different.
Voiced actually by a woman?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, not yet. We've got the Richard Hunt Sweetums. We don't have the Richard Hunt Janice yet.
Yeah.
But yes, Aaron Oscar is performing Janice and Wanda and Hilda in this first season, and will leave the Muppets after season 1.
Interesting.
So she's only there for a little bit, which is why, again, some of these characters will change, and also just some will disappear after this season.
After their no girls allowed policy is enacted.
Well, they start to they'll bring in other women in other episodes and other seasons.
If you say so.
But it does seem like there's only like no more than 2 women allowed per episode.
You're gonna ruin the vibe, the Muppet vibe.
There are some very good pictures in that Of Muppets and Men book, but there are so many pictures that are just Dave Goelz, Frank Oz, Jerry Nelson, and Jim Henson just standing there like, yep, that's a lot of bearded men.
Wow, what a time. So anyway, Wayne and Wanda, I think, so the whole concept with them is that they are Sam the Eagle's, like, designated, good-natured, American values act who doesn't do anything weird, and something weird and bad always happens to them.
Yeah, they'll be on a boat and it sinks. They'll be singing about storms and then it storms. They'll be singing whatever and somebody shows up. It's like...
I feel like it needed that explained. Like, Sam needed to be backstage being like, here's my new act, Wayne and Wanda. They're going to make this show less weird. And he does kind of do that in the beginning of this sketch, I think. But it just doesn't, like, if you didn't know what was happening, I don't know if you'd really understand what was supposed to be happening.
And I think we might get a little bit more of that later on in the episodes they maybe filmed before this one. Because I have a memory of Sam talking to Kermit backstage about Wayne and Wanda.
Yeah, I do too, kind of.
And I also know that, like, over the course of the season, even Sam starts to support Wayne and Wanda less and less. So, yeah, I think everyone is in agreement that Wayne and Wanda don't work incredibly well.
I think Sam is great, and I think the concept of him trying to clean the show up is funny. But they just needed to pick something with a little bit more impact to tie together what the hell they're trying to do there.
But speaking of impact, Sam, the last sketch in this episode is Fever, a top-tier all-time bit from the Muppets. They even, I believe, I'm going to get some of these facts wrong because I don't have the notes in front of me, but Rita Moreno got honored at, like, the Kennedy honors or whatever it is. At that event, they had Rosie Perez, like, perform this sketch with Animal as, like, a tribute to Rita Moreno.
Yeah, this one was so good. This was such classic, like, this is exactly what this show should be. She's trying to sing her song. Animal is, like, really trying to keep it together. God bless him in the background, but he can't help but do these drum fills that are completely ridiculously loud and scare her. And then she goes back and threatens his life. And that's great.
Yeah, we get a lot of characterization in this that I think sets up a lot of the Muppet Show. Like, we have Animal showing off that, like, he can't really be controlled. We get the classic sort of Henson comedy bit of a musician who's not playing along with the other ones and is trying to do their own thing that we've seen since the beginning of the Muppets.
Oh, yeah. This is just the Yellow Rose of Texas
Right.
thing over again. Right.
Yeah, so this is not like a new concept for Jim Henson, but I think it does a lot to establish the comedy of the show, and also, Rita Moreno just plays along really, really well.
Man, I'm still, like, blown away by how the Electric Mayhem were just invented, like, a few months ago, and they're all, like, the strongest characters, basically, or, like, except for Janice, maybe. They all know exactly who the Electric Mayhem are right away. But anyway, then the show's over. Now we have 4 more of these to talk about, so we got to go faster.
Yeah, we'll go faster for the rest of these, and I think a lot of that was establishing, like, what these sketches are, how does this show work. So, yes, we will maybe get through the rest of these a little bit faster, because I think some of them are not as good, and also some of them just, have offensive things in them that we don't want to spend too much time thinking about.
They sure do. But the Rita Moreno episode, end of the day, big thumbs up for me.
Oh, yeah. I think out of these 5, at least in my top 2.
Oh, I think this is my top 1. This one was the only one that, like, genuinely made me laugh, I think. Just from the Rita Moreno sketches. Like, her opening sketch, I think, was the funniest one of all of them.
Well, the episode we're about to talk about is the competitor from my favorite episode of the 5 we watched. The next one's guest is Jim Nabors of the Gomer Pyle, Andy Griffith fame. And again, this is the one where Scooter debuts as the nephew of the owner of the theater. This one is one of those that has a content warning at the top of the episode when you go to click it, and you're like, oh, God, what's going to happen in this? And I have found that when that thing pops up now before a Muppet Show episode, I'm always fearing the worst, expecting the worst, and just thinking like, oh, God, here it comes. Is this going to be it? And this was one specifically where I was afraid of what it might be, and we get a joke early on from Rolf that is about the Asian flu and to take fortune cookies to cure that. And I was like, oh, God, that was bad. And then it got worse, or at least also bad, because the Wayne and Wanda sketch in this episode, they sing Indian Love Call, and a stereotypical Native American person shows up. It's,
all things considered, not as bad as it could be, but not great.
Yes, it's a bad look. Would not be done today if they were remaking these episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
But
the Native American guy at least just comes out and says, "Hey, what's up?" instead of something horrible. So
yes, he's got like a weird New Jersey accent or something.
It's like, what do you want?
Yeah, performed by Jerry Nelson. I think the one interesting thing about that is that the song "Indian Love Call" is the song in Mars Attacks that blows up the aliens' heads.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it sounds very different than Wanda's version of it. It's like the Slim Pickens or whatever version of that.
Maybe that's what the content warning was. If you are a Mars Attacks alien, don't watch this episode. Your head will explode.
Slim Whitman, not Slim Pickens. Slim Pickens is the actor from Doctor Strange.
Who was also a singer, I believe.
Yeah, he did some country stuff, but he is not the one who sang that song. We get the name of the theater in this episode, the Benny Vandergast Memorial Theater.
Which I think is funny because they refer to him like he's alive also when it says Memorial Theater.
They say they owe Benny rent. And then also it's supposed to be Scooter's uncle's theater, and his name is not Benny Vandergast. So
no, I wondered if that was like a mistake they made later on when they finally introduced his uncle.
I think they probably just forgot. I don't know that this comes up that often.
I'd assume that he is supposed to be Benny Vandergast's nephew, or else they wouldn't mention.
You'd think so, but they don't.
Yeah,
they don't.
But he's not.
They don't tie that together, and they also don't ever bring it up again. So this episode, though, is the U.S. debut of the Houses, the Gogolala Jubilee Jug Band, and also Hilda, because I assume people in the U.S. did not see Des O'Connor Entertains, where she also was.
Right.
So we have seen her before, but this is her Muppet Show debut.
She is the costume maker, is that right?
Yeah, it seems like she's in charge of costumes.
I don't think they really allude to that very much in these episodes, but she's just some old lady who's back there hanging out.
Yeah.
So we don't have to talk too much about the backstage thing this time because I covered it pretty well. Scooter's there, kind of weaseling his way into the show and also like blackmailing everybody.
Yeah,
which I think is pretty funny.
Every single thing is, well, my uncle does own the theater. And everyone's like, fine, we'll pay you more, or fine, we'll put your act on the show, or fine, yes, look, whatever you want. And that will continue for a while.
I like that he's such a nasty little man. It's very funny to me. I'm curious why you liked this episode so much, I guess.
I guess, Jim Nabors and the way he interacts with the Muppets. Like, I feel like he's fully committed to this, and it doesn't seem like he's just there to make jokes. It seems like he's there to work with them. I think specifically the one that feels like a later Muppet Show sketch and like an SNL sketch is the one where he's playing a security guard at the bread factory. And the whole thing is like joking about his accent, his southern accent, because Rolf is trying to break in to the bread factory, and he tells him to put up his hands or something like that. I can't do a good southern accent, but he's saying put up your hands, but it sounds like to Rolf, put up your hens. And so Rolf has like, oh, these guys, and he like holds up 2 chickens. It's like, don't move a hair, and he lifts a bunny out of nowhere, and he's like, yeah, there's a lot of good punny jokes on Jim Nabors' accent, and Rolf's there, so again, I love that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that sketch won me over a lot, and then also at the end, Jim Nabors sings "Thank God I'm a Country Boy" with a giant cast of
just
puppets.
A huge cast of
Like, I didn't even know they had that many people on staff at that point. But you get a bunch of chickens, you get the jug band.
I think this one I didn't like. I liked this one, but I think this was one where I thought, oh, I wish Jim Nabors could have talked to the Muppets more. Like, I wish he could have been back later and been like a proper guest on the show.
That makes sense. And I think this one for me does work because he's in it a bit more than Rita Moreno was. He gets to play a little bit more. And also it just feels like a cohesive show a little bit more. Like the fact that they have this sketch and a musical number. They have the talk spot where he gets to talk with Miss Piggy and Kermit.
Yeah.
I think is good. And obviously he's there to like show off the fact that he can sing. He sings the Gone with the Wind song while the wind starts to blow away
that's
the set and his pants.
He is in this a lot. He's in it a ton.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Animal breaks his leg at some point.
Yeah, with a hammer.
Yeah.
I love also in the Thank God I'm a Country Boy sketch, he's got this magnificent belt buckle that is his initials.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
It's very good. I also noticed that.
So he's like a cool guy. He's got massive amounts of swag, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Old Jim Nabors does.
And I think the only thing we didn't talk about in that episode that I think is worth touching on is the house bit. We get the first appearance of the houses, which clearly Sam loves a lot.
I hate those stupid houses.
It's just a row of houses that are giant puppets talking to each other. And this one, regardless of how much Sam hates them, I think is the best one that we get to see.
Yeah.
One house is talking to the other and says, "Oh, my wife is sick." And the other house says, "Oh, what's wrong?" And he says, "She's got shingles." And
that's it.
Yeah, but that's pretty good.
That's stupid. This is the height of this doesn't make any sense for being on stage. Because it's a bunch of fucking houses.
Right, and the houses are alive, but like
Yeah.
we don't see the houses interacting with Kermit and Scooter backstage or anything.
Because they're houses. So the puppets are great. I will give them that. The puppets are beautiful. This would have been, maybe this could have been what was on Saturday Night Live or something.
Ooh, yeah, that would have worked.
This just doesn't belong here, I feel like.
Well, don't worry, Sam, because it'll go away after the first season.
Which is kind of sad because they probably did spend a lot of time on those puppets. But
from reading of Muppets and Men, I have learned that not only do they spend a lot of time and money on these puppets, but they also sometimes will be making puppets for one sketch. They're like, okay, somebody make a grasshopper that can drive a car. You got 20 minutes, go. And it's like, okay, throw that puppet away. We don't need it anymore.
Well, I guess they're getting paid lots of money, so that's probably okay.
Next up, we have what I will subjectively call a pretty dull episode of The Muppet Show, guested with Sandy Duncan. And this, I don't know if it's Sandy Duncan's fault. I don't know if it's the writer's fault, but this one has a running gag throughout it that does not work 1% for me. I hate it so much.
The Fozzie making a joke about everything? The banana sketch.
This is the banana sketch, which...
I thought the banana sketch thing was kind of funny.
Oh, God, I hate it. It's so much. The whole thing is that Fozzie is talking about doing the banana sketch, the famous Gags Beasley banana sketch that everyone apparently but Kermit knows about and thinks is the funniest thing that's ever existed. I'm on Kermit's side.
That sounds stupid and it maybe doesn't exist.
I think so. In looking this up, apparently Jack Burns, who is the head writer on The Muppet Show this first season, also was on SNL in the second season and played Gags Beasley.
Yeah.
And mentioned his famous banana sketch.
Yeah, I think it's cool. So if you're a super fan of SNL, you'd watch this and be like, oh, it's old Gags.
For me, I go, oh, Jack Burns didn't have that many jokes.
No, he was doing it on purpose. He was tying the Muppets into the SNL-verse. It's a multiverse, you see.
I'm not buying it. I think, though, there are some things in this episode that do work. I will say at the beginning, Kermit gets blown up because Crazy Harry's there. And the visual of Kermit being blown up into Statler and Waldorf's box is incredibly well handled.
And he handles it well, too. He's like, oh, I always wondered what it was like up here.
Yeah. This is also the on-screen debut of the Mutations.
I liked that skit. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, we get a nice girl like me, like Sandy Duncan, singing and drinking a whole lot.
Drinking massive amounts of alcohol.
She should be dead by the end of this sketch.
She should be dead.
She downs like 12 cocktails.
Yeah, but it also felt very Julie Andrews showy because it was kind of like this goober trying to do like a sexy dance.
Yeah, it felt like sort of they were trying to recapture that Rita Moreno dancing scene magic with like this sweet, wholesome Sandy Duncan. And it just was not really working.
I don't get Sandy Duncan's whole thing. But I did like the sketch. What do you think about the one where she's talking to Sweetums?
I think it's all right. I think it goes on a little long, and I think it also has a weird message of like Sweetums is upset that he's unattractive, and she's like, "That's okay. You're pretty on the inside." And
Yeah.
like, okay,
well.
like he can still be sad about not feeling good about the way he looks. But that one's interesting because you also the payoff of that one's pretty good. Like she cures Sweetum's sadness and leaves him, and then she sees Behemoth sitting there, which this is Behemoth's TV debut, and she assumes that Behemoth must also be sad because he's ugly. But no, he's fine with the way he looks, and he shoves a pie in her face.
Yeah, I think it goes on just long enough that you realize what's about to happen. Like the fact that it goes on too long works for it in the end. So I thought maybe that was maybe a little bit accidental, but I thought it really was a lot of setup for something that I thought was pretty funny. In a way that the other sketches weren't quite as like outright funny, kind of in the same, a little bit mean-spirited sort of way.
And I feel like this
that.
episode, like now that I'm thinking about it, is like really kind of a roller coaster because this does have some of my favorite sketches of the 5 we watched, but at the same time is maybe one of my least favorite episodes we watched because the ones that don't shine as well don't work for me at all. And I feel like mostly they are the ones that Sandy Duncan is when I'm just kind of like,
totally.
She's not really bringing a lot to this episode.
The truly worst part of the whole viewing experience, I would say, was when Sandy sings Try to Remember to Kermit.
Wow, really? You hate that much?
It was so pointless.
See,
She just sings it to him.
I think I'm okay with some of these, like the very earnest songs that happen throughout this, just because I'm like, this is a nice little moment to chill out. And I think we get that the Gonzo Rolf song feels kind of like that too, where it's just like, a nice little song moment. This is good. And I think, like, compared to other parts of this episode, this was a relief to me that we weren't talking about the frickin' banana sketch. They wasted the talk spot in this episode. Like, the talk spots are so, like, good normally. And in this one, you just have Sandy and Fozzie laughing about the banana sketch until Kermit gets annoyed and walks away. And I also wanted to walk away.
Some of us like the banana sketch, Matt, and you're going to just have to deal with it.
I'm going to put out a poll on Twitter and see if anyone else likes this banana sketch.
But yeah, there is something unknowably boring about this episode.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, as we talk about it, I can't quite put my finger on what it is, aside from the banana sketch that I don't like about this episode. But overall, it just washed over me in a way where I felt like, okay, that was the thing I watched.
And now Ruth Buzzi. Speaking of not really being all that exciting.
Yeah, speaking of, this little dip in quality of Muppet Show episodes in this first season.
One thing real quick that I did like about the fact that they mixed the episodes up so much is that you do get the really crappy first few episodes mixed in with better ones, which makes it a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to mention too, actually, before we move on to the Ruth Buzzi episode, in the very background for like a couple seconds in the At the Dance sketch, which we didn't talk about in this one because it was particularly painful. In the background, he doesn't get any lines, but you see the head of Bunsen Honeydew.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, he's dancing around in the background, and you just like a glimpse of him is back there. So this is technically his debut. But yes, moving on to the Ruth Buzzi episode, the 4th episode we watched was from October 11th, 1976. This is my least favorite host of the 5. She just did not seem to be meshing with the puppets very well. She seemed like she was just sort of there to crack jokes and be her Ruth Buzzi self, but did not care if that like worked with what the Muppets wanted to do.
I didn't get that vibe as much. I just didn't think any of the stuff she was in was particularly funny.
Yeah, and I think also the running gag, the behind the scenes stuff with the robotic Kermit also is sort of in that vein where it doesn't really go anywhere and it doesn't really like Kermit himself, who should be the most concerned about an impersonator of him walking around, doesn't seem too bothered by it.
No, he just loses track of this robot all the time.
Yeah.
I assume that it was done just so that they could do the routine where Kermit and other Kermit were like looking in the mirror at each other.
Yeah. And the whole thing with like a different kind of Kermit hitting on Piggy, which is sort of like the first sign we see of Kermit and Piggy having a romance.
Yeah. But the part where they're in the mirror is fun. I like that.
I think there are little parts of that work better than others, but I think it's just as the running gags go behind the stage, like backstage stuff goes, I think this is one of the weaker ones as well. So having the Ruth Buzzi sketches not be that entertaining on top of the backstage stuff not being entertaining, this episode just kind of like I watched all of these 2 times to just sort of soak them in, and the second time through on this one, I was glossing over a little bit.
I maybe take back that Days of September was my least favorite sketch, because when Ruth, Buzzi, and Sweetums do their little thing, their duet where they beat each other up, I did not like that.
Well, and
either.
she's singing "I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You," and they're like in a medieval castle, and I don't know why.
Doesn't make sense.
No, not at all. As much as I dislike the Sandy Duncan talk spot, this one also is bad because, or maybe even worse, because it's just talking about like dieting. And Kermit seems annoyed by the idea that he has to have this conversation. And I'm just like,
he doesn't seem like he really wants to talk to Ruth.
No. And I don't get it. And she like tickles him and he seems annoyed by that. And it's just like, it seems like they ad-libbed this one and Jim was actually annoyed. I don't really know what was going on with this.
Maybe he was having a bad day.
Yeah, my only other note about this episode was the Jug Band number, which was "You Can't Roller Skate in the Buffalo Herd." Just reminded me of Jackass 3, if you ever watched the Jackass movies in the past.
I've never seen the third one.
Oh, you're missing out. Well, there's a sketch, I think early on in Jackass 3, where Johnny Knoxville is dancing to this song while wearing roller skates in the middle of a pen, and then they release some bison in there to gore him.
Just a little bit of human and animal cruelty.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Well, it also just seems like something that would happen on the Muppet Show. Like, it seems like somebody could be singing that song and then they get run over by some buffalo.
Interesting. Maybe there's something to...
I think Johnny Knoxville probably is a big Muppet fan.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder how much DNA from the Muppet Show...
He is Gonzo.
They're all Gonzo.
Yeah, it's a whole group of Gonzos.
So finally, Joel Grey. And this is the one where the intro has an extra lyrics.
Yeah, he sings, "Our show tonight will feature some stuff that looks like this." And it shows off, like Sam mentioned earlier, the first sketch we see, which is the Comedy Tonight sung by Freckles. And they also show off in that opening theme song number, like they show clips from like the Razzle Dazzle sketch and the cabaret song. So like you're seeing more of the show you're going to watch than you ever get on any of these other episodes.
And I guess maybe that had something to do with it being the first episode in the UK. Maybe they front loaded it a little bit to make people kind of stick around.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
But the backstage bit on this one is that Fozzie's learning what improv is, essentially.
That's true.
He's pretty determined to be the guy who can make a joke about anything. Whatever word you yell out, he's going to make a joke about it. And that's pretty much it. He keeps trying that, and people get really, really annoyed that he keeps making jokes about everything they say. And
it is really annoying.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To be fair to them.
Yes, that would be a very annoying trait for someone to have around you as a friend.
And then Statler and Waldorf make him look like a fool because he doesn't know the word amoeba.
They don't either, though, to be fair.
Muppets don't have to go to school, so they don't know any words.
They don't watch Journey to the Microcosmos.
So this one had another kind of low-light sketch for me. I loved the set of Comedy Tonight, the first thing with the Frackles. So it's a bunch of Frackles in a haunted house singing, I guess, a goofy song is what the joke is supposed to be, but I don't really get it.
I don't really get it either, but I do enjoy the look of this haunted house, castle-looking thing, and the Frackles.
Cool lighting.
Yeah,
cool
it all
monsters,
looks spooky and nice, but I don't get what the story of that bit is.
But Joel Grey in this one's great. He does talk. He interacts with the other Muppets quite a bit.
Yeah, and he has this thing that I think some guests will have where he interacts with the Muppets really well, but he also is sort of like, why am I here? How did I get here?
He is a little bit like that, yeah.
And I enjoy that because I think that fits really well sometimes, where it's like they believe the situation they are in, but they don't know how they got there. We have a little bit here where Joel is talking to Gonzo, which, like, they're a nice little pairing. They keep putting them together.
I feel like he's like his mentor. He's teaching him how to be Gonzo.
Yeah. And we get a nice little fun talking hat puppet from Joel that doesn't really go anywhere, but it's just kind of like a precursor to sort of those like talking food puppets we mentioned earlier that like random household items with eyeballs suddenly talking is nice.
Then there's the final act, which is Razzle Dazzle. Is the song that they sing eventually, but it starts off with the first piece of Gonzo performance art that the U.S. audience would have seen. Yeah,
he's going to destroy a car to the tune of the Anvil Chorus.
He's doing this, and the audience just hates it. So Gonzo's going to give up, but then Joel comes out and sings a song about no matter how bad you suck, as long as you just really go all out and sparkle people, no one's going to notice that you suck, which is great.
The messages we are getting from the Muppet Show so far is that it's okay if you're ugly as long as you're beautiful on the inside. And also, it doesn't matter if you suck as long as you give them a little razzle-dazzle.
I like that quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, and I like any character building for Gonzo, even if it doesn't necessarily go anywhere right away. But again, I like the pairing of Joel Grey and Gonzo. They're good together.
But Gonzo's still so sad. He's still droop, basically. He's got a lot of droop in him from the Valentine show.
Pretty much the whole first season he will have that, and then I know at the end of the first season, Dave Goelz redesigns Gonzo and adds some eyelids to him that are more expressive so that he's not just always sad.
And that's it. That's all we watched.
Boom. First 5
that was
episodes.
so much.
We did, yeah, and we'll get better with that in the future. We'll go through them faster.
But so what'd you think of the first chunk of Muppet Show?
You know, I like it. I think, again, because it's not that surprising to me. I've watched the Muppet Show before. I kind of know what to expect. Watching it with a more critical eye, it is interesting to sort of see what I like and don't like about some of these. And I'm glad that we have a difference of opinion on some of them, too. And we're not just like, yes, I agree with all of your points, Sam, because I still hate Marvin Suggs and the banana sketch.
I think that was one of my favorite parts. It was so funny. But yeah, and I'm excited to know that it will get better and that they will dump stuff and that it's not going to be quite as like stiff as it is now or that it'll improve.
Yeah, it's sort of promising to look at the fact that some of the things we don't like from this first season do go away in the later seasons, so we won't have to put up with more house sketches and more at the dance stuff. So
if we had been in the writer's room, we would have been hanging out with Jerry Jewell like, those houses suck ass, right? You'd be like, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
I
worry,
agree.
I'll handle this.
Yeah, one day I'll be head writer. Did you have sort of like a least favorite host out of these? Was it Ruth Buzzi?
I think I liked Ruth Buzzi more than you did.
Okay.
I think I didn't get quite the same feeling of her not working well with the Muppets. I think to me, just in retrospect, because that episode bored me the most, I think the Ruth Buzzi episode was my least favorite in total. So she must be my least favorite host. She and Jim Nabors are the two I would want to come back and try again the most of anybody.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unfortunate. But I think her episode is the weakest for sure. How about you?
Yeah, I think
Ruth Buzzi?
Yeah, I think Ruth Buzzi, it's an easy one. I think not only does she not work for me, but I think that episode is just kind of a mess. Jim Nabors, Rita Moreno, and Joel Grey, all of those I liked a lot.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know that I have a favorite out of those three, but yeah, they all three worked in different ways for me.
I think Rita Moreno is probably my favorite one, just because like those two sketches are ones, like especially her fever sketch is one that you would like maybe show to somebody who didn't know what the Muppets are all about. You'd be like, here's a famous person you know, and also this is like a classic Muppet skit. This is what they all are.
Well then, Sam, we have started our journey with the Muppet Show. We've got the first 5 episodes done. We'll be watching all of the rest, obviously, in the future, and maybe be able to discuss them a little faster than we did this time.
We'll be fine, yeah.
Yeah, but for now, we're going to move on to our Muppet of the Week. It's Scooter, the resident gopher / eventually stage manager for the Muppets. He got his job, as we discussed, because his uncle owns the theater. His uncle's name is J.P. Gross, who we will see in the second season of The Muppet Show. We will actually get to meet the man.
Nasty little guy. Just looks like a guy. Whereas Scooter looks like a cutie.
Well, and speaking of the way Scooter looks, we had discussed that Scooter had sort of like a generic look, that he looked a lot like the Wall-E puppet from the Des O'Connor Entertains special. And there are a lot of puppets, when you look through some of the background puppets, that have the same exact head shape as Scooter.
I noticed a bunch in these first 5 episodes of the Muppet Show.
Yeah, there's blue Scooters, there's green Scooters, there's a lot of different Scooters. But he's distinct in his look because he has the glasses that contain his eyeballs, which I think is a very distinctive thing.
Very cool. I like that.
Yeah, the moment you see Scooter from the side, you're like, where'd his face go? And he always has his shiny green Muppet Show jacket. Looking up Scooter's descriptive, species, it described him as vaguely humanoid of unknown origin. And apparently, as cited in Of Muppets and Men, I think the documentary, not the book. I don't remember this from the book. When pressed about his family, he explained that his mother was a parrot, but he didn't know about his father.
He does have a bird. I guess, to me, he kind of looks like a chicken and a monkey combined.
Yeah, but I just always, chalked him up as, an abstract nothing kind of Muppet. So the fact that he says his mom is a parrot throws everything I know about Scooter, out the window.
I mean, his dad had to have ears. That's how we can narrow that down.
Well, and in
so.
the 2015 Muppets show, he talks a lot about his mom dating a guy named Ken, who who he hates a lot. And I never once pictured Scooter's mom as a parrot.
Yeah, I think we can chalk that up to being apocryphal at this point. I don't think his mom's a parrot.
I am sure we see Scooter's parents at some point in some book.
Oh, absolutely.
And it will not be a parrot. But Scooter, speaking of his family, famously has a twin sister, Skeeter, who is featured on the Muppet Babies TV shows, but never in the Muppet Show or any of the movies or anything live action.
And as a grown-up, rarely, but
yeah, she
usually
popped up
as an illustration.
Yes, she's only in the comic books, which I'm excited to talk about at some point.
Yeah.
But in the 2010 run of Muppet Show comic books, she is shown as an adult. So, she's not dead. She didn't go missing. We know.
She didn't die as a baby.
No. There's actually a podcast called Skeeterial, like cereal. That is breaking down the mystery of what happened to Skeeter, and they're rewatching Muppet Babies to see if there's any clues. Skeeter is younger than her twin brother Scooter by only a minute, so that's the most we kind of know about them. I'm sure we'll learn more and get to know them better as we watch the Muppet Babies later on. Scooter has been performed by a handful of different people throughout the years. Most prominently, Richard Hunt performed Scooter from 1976 until 1991. His last performance of Scooter was in the Muppet Vision 3D show at Disney World, and that's because Richard Hunt died in 1992. I would recommend, if you want to know more about Richard Hunt, you should go watch Matt Baum's new video on YouTube. He did a whole video about Richard Hunt, and had a lot of help from the people from Muppet History and also from Jessica Max Stein, who is writing a biography on Richard Hunt as well that is going to be coming out sometime in the next year or two, I think. And Jessica Max Stein actually has a Patreon up where you can go support her book. So I would check out, if you want more about Richard Hunt, go check out the Matt Baum video and also go check out Jessica Max Stein's Patreon to support her book. But after Richard Hunt's death, Scooter did not make any appearances between 1992 and 1999. And then in 1999, he pops up in Muppets from Space, where he is voiced by Adam Hunt, Richard Hunt's brother. And that's, like, as far as I could see, kind of the only thing Adam Hunt did. So I don't know if they were maybe like, hey, we want to bring back your brother's character. Would you like to voice him?
That's wild.
And I think he only has like 1 or 2 lines in Muppets from Space. He's not a major character. But after that, in 2000, in Muppet Race Mania, Matt Vogel does the voice of Scooter.
It's so interesting how that was like the origin of so many of these new voice actors.
Yeah, because I think they just they weren't doing a ton of other things around that time as far as like movies or TV shows. So it was like, okay, who do we have that can do these voices? But maybe we don't have the original people around right now. But after that, Brian Henson took over Scooter in 2002 for It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, where it's basically It's a Wonderful Life if Kermit didn't exist, what would happen to the rest of the Muppets. And in that one, Scooter becomes a caged go-go dancer.
Oh, no.
It's very bizarre.
Yo, that's too bad.
Yeah. And Brian Henson will also do the voice of Scooter for Muppets Party Cruise in 2003.
Okay.
And then in The Muppet Wizard of Oz, Ricky Boyd does the voice of him in there in 2005, where he's like the assistant to the wizard. And then finally, in 2008, David Rudman took over for Scooter and has been voicing him ever since then. David Rudman, who also does Janice and Beaker and Cookie Monster, obviously took over some of Richard Hunt's roles, but not, obviously, Cookie Monster, because that was a Frank Oz role. But yeah, I am a big fan of Scooter. I like Scooter even when he's being a shit in The Muppet Show, talking about how his uncle owns everything. But I really like him as a character even through the 2015 Muppet Show and everything else. I think he, unfortunately, is forced to carry Muppets Now and be sort of the straight guy on that show, which is a bummer for him because I think he gets to be really funny at times. But how do you feel about Scooter?
I also feel the same way. I inexplicably love Scooter for not really any reason I can pinpoint, even though he is a little worm.
He's sort of an everyman, which is nice and relatable, more so than some of the other characters.
And I think I would wonder if a lot of it has to do with the fact that maybe like the first time you watch The Muppet Show as a kid, he's most likely going to be the first Muppet you see, like maybe ever, unless you've seen Kermit the Frog, because he pops in and introduces every host basically, and like that part is really endearing. He just seemed like a little guy who's trying his best, and also he's like a big part of Muppet Babies. And for as much as I like Scooter, I think I like Skeeter more, and have always wondered my whole life why. Like when I probably watched the Muppet Babies first, or always wondered like, why isn't Skeeter on the Muppet Show? Where did this character come from? Yeah, so the Scooter Skeeter combo and Scooter himself, definitely among my favorite Muppets, because he's just like a nice presence. He seems like a nice guy to have around.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to talking about Skeeter more when the Muppet Babies comes around. But it does seem like they added Skeeter pretty much because they were like, shit, we only got one girl character on the show. We should add another one. And instead of like bringing in Janice or somebody that they already had established, they were like, let's create a new character that does like never shows up in anything else. We won't worry about explaining that for some reason.
They had Slim Pickens.
Or was it Slim Whitman?
Oh no.
Yeah, see what I did there?
Oh no.
It's a running gag.
Oh God. What do you think about Scooter?
Yeah, I love him. I think similar to what you said, I think he's just a all-around good guy, relatable. And when he gets the shine, I think he works really well. I know a lot of people don't like the 2015 Muppet Show, but I think he is one of the standout people on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I think he, right now, even if some people are annoyed by his behavior on the Muppet Show as just the privileged nephew of a theater owner, he does get to be much more involved and much more a part of the show.
And he's like another character who's just like a fully formed, has a point of view, which is a little bit rare in these episodes so far. Like he has a reason to be there.
I also really like when we will get some performances from Scooter on the Muppet Show. He steps out onto stage and like insists that he gets to perform, but I actually really like some of his performances. He does the Dancing Bear song. That's really good. And then he also does a song, like I think it's called like Six String Orchestra or something like that. I'm forgetting now, but it's just like him playing his guitar in his bedroom, and it's like a really sweet, nice song.
That one I have definite memories of from watching it as a kid, and it being very nice. Yeah, you know, I think that me and you are a couple of Scooters too, which is probably why we like him.
Oh, for sure. I think we want to be the Gonzos and the Kermits and all those guys of the world, but I mean, we're much more Scooters if we're being real.
Yep. Career-wise and everything, we're just a couple of Scooters.
So outside of those first 5 episodes of The Muppet Show, I think I have a good guess. But what non-Muppet things did you watch this past couple weeks?
You have a good guess for me?
I do.
What is it?
Well, we happened to take a couple weeks off here between recordings for various reasons. But during that 2 weeks, the Olympics happened.
Well, I have been watching a shitload of Olympics. That's true.
Which I've been watching as well, but I assume you were watching them.
Yeah, we were supposed... So I think, I don't know, I've mentioned this on SciShow Tangents and maybe here, but I was supposed to get married 2 summers ago or something. I don't even remember anymore.
Just last summer,
Not this summer,
believe,
but the
right?
previous summer. Yeah.
COVID summer.
But my wedding was going to be right around the Olympics, so our honeymoon was going to happen before the wedding. Anyway, we were going to go to the Olympics in Japan for our honeymoon. We had we had plane tickets, we had event tickets, we had everything, and then it got canceled. So Rachel and I have been watching tons of Olympics. Last night we watched what's it, the swimming and dancing. What's that called? Synchronized swimming. They don't call it that anymore, but I don't remember what they call it. Artistic swimming.
Artistic swimming, yeah.
Yeah, we watched that. It was great. I watched the women's weightlifting finals, and that was amazing because it was shot by like a cinematography genius who would like zoom in and do like all kinds of cool, I don't know, it was great. So we got YouTube Live, like YouTube TV, just for a month, and we've been watching it on that, and it just has everything. The skateboarding's really cool. The rock, we've watched like all of the rock climbing, the women's rock climbing events, because they're freaking amazing. So yeah, that's like mostly what I've been consuming media-wise. I did see Green Knight last night.
Ooh, how was that?
Great, I loved it.
I feel like that movie has been coming out for 5 years because it was
supposed to come out before the pandemic.
Yeah. And then everything kept getting pushed and pushed, and it was that movie that I kept seeing, and I was like, that's still not out? What? How?
Yeah. There's so many of those. Like, that's what Shang-Chi is like now.
Yeah.
Like,
and Black Widow was the same way. Like, yeah.
This movie's been done for 2 years. But Green Knight it came out with a great trailer right before quarantine, and everybody was psyched for it. And it's good. It's like a retelling of a King Arthur story, but like artsy fartsy. Feels a lot like The Seventh Seal. Is that what that movie's called? Or the one where they're playing chess against death. Is that one? Old.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
German expressionist kind of style. But yeah, that was good too. But the Olympics. Highly recommend the Olympics.
Yeah, go back somehow. Watch the Olympics if you haven't. We watch a lot of
you can still stream it on YouTube, but
we watch a lot of the track and field athletics stuff as my wife is into running, so that is more exciting for her. And I just kind of like all of the Olympics, like watching anyone break a record. I'm like, yeah, you did it. Good job.
Yes. How about you? The Olympics also?
Pretty much as the Olympics. That's about it. I've also, outside of movies and stuff, I've been playing the video game Overboard, which is a lot of fun. I've got it on the Switch. I don't know what else it's available on. But it's a quick little sort of visual novel is not quite the right way to talk about it. But it's not like a very action-based game. But basically the game opens up. This is not a spoiler. The first thing that happens when you load the game up is that you are playing a woman who murders her husband. She throws him overboard. Oh, you're on a boat.
Cool.
It's like midnight. She throws him overboard. You wake up the next morning, and from there, you take control of all of her decisions, who she talks to, what she says to them, and after like 8 hours, not real time, like game time, there's like a scene where they'll come out and everyone starts talking about like what happened to this guy, because clearly you're on a boat, everyone knew him, so they know he's missing, they know he's probably dead, but you have to sort of try and convince everyone on the boat that you did not murder your husband. You have to try and get away with it. And if you fail, they throw you in prison and the game immediately resets and you wake up and you're sort of like aware of this loop. And you're just like, okay, next time I should be nicer to that person. And so you go through this day again and you try to like make different choices and try to befriend certain people. And there's always things that like, okay, if you do this, you won't be able to do this on time. So you have to sort of choose like, which do you think is the priority? Should you muss up your bed to make it look like he slept in the bed with you? Or should you run up to the top of the deck and find your missing earring? Like those kinds of choices. Like you can only do one. You don't have time to do either, like to do both.
So it's Groundhog Day for nasty purposes.
Yes, pretty much. It is. Okay. It's like you keep replaying the same day over and over, trying to get away with the crime. And I have played through it maybe 6-7 times so far, and I have yet to get away with it. But each time has been a lot of fun because I realized I'm like, shit, I did lie to that person, and they were able to call me out in front of this other person who was like, wait, that's not what you said to me. And it gets really wacky and weird sometimes where you can go pray in the chapel and God will respond and like knows what you did. And so, yeah, it goes to very weird places. And I believe there are like multiple different ways you can get away with it. I will hopefully find those out someday. But yeah, it's a fun little game. Recommend it. So next week, you might think, hey, I bet they're watching 5 more episodes of The Muppet Show. But hey, you'd be wrong.
You idiot.
Yeah. Don't you know how podcasts work? We'll do whatever we want. It's chaos.
Yeah.
So we want to break it up a little bit as far as like not just doing a whole big chunk of Muppet Show episodes. So we're going to be breaking them up with some of these episodes that don't really fit anywhere in our chronological timeline. So next week's first sort of Unstuck in Time special episode will be all about the Muppet Meeting Films, which are a series of films the Muppets were partially hired to create for sort of internal use at big companies like IBM. And then in 1975, the Muppets decided to like make this a business model. And they started producing these Muppet Meeting Films from 1975 all the way through 1993 that they were then selling VHSs to companies to watch and inspire their workers. This sort of feels like the most illegal thing we've watched so far because you can still like buy these tapes for like hundreds of dollars. But they're all on YouTube as well.
What the hell? You can still buy them like from the source?
Yeah, there's a site that I found where you can go on and pay like $300 for like 3 of these short videos, which seems like a wild price, especially when I found all like 50 of them on YouTube. So,
all right. Be cool. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, don't tell anyone. I think these have been up on YouTube for a while, so I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think anyone's that concerned because they don't do this thing anymore. But yes, we will be watching the early industrial films from 1965 and 1967 all the way up through 1993 with the Muppet Meeting Films. And so this will be, 1, the first time we're stepping way outside of our timeline here. 2, the first time we'll be talking about some post-Jim Henson Muppet content. And yeah, it's just a weird sort of thing the Muppets did that we want to talk about, that we want to dive into all at once to talk about them. And yeah, that's what we'll be talking about next week. But before we go, we need to thank our friend Tuna for creating the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at CommitmentPod, where you will find the link to watch some of those Muppet Meeting films. And you can also, if you want to, email us at mail@commitment.com if you have any Muppet memories you'd like to share with us, especially now that we're getting into the Muppet Show here. I'm sure a lot more of you have experience with this than some of the other stuff we have watched. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm at Slam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.